How do you navigate the world of media out there?
I don't want to live my life through this device, but I also can't put it down. So what do?
How do you start to create boundaries?
How do we help them discern so they know how to do that one day?
Is it a hard boundary? Is this something very, very dangerous? Or is this something that I might need to get comfortable with, giving them some agency and freedom? What do you say to adults that feels too late? I've got these habits, I can't overcome these things.
On this episode of the Live Change podcast, we're going to be discussing the positives and the negatives of how media has shaped our world differently in the last decade and how it affects our kids and their well-being. To have this discussion we invited one of our pastors, Kevin Mahan, to the conversation. Kevin is a father of 3 boys, and he knows firsthand what it's like to navigate setting media boundaries for the family and how tough those decisions can be. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Now, Kevin, you have a couple kiddos. So you're living this right now for both yourself and for the kids.
Yep. Rachel and I have 3 boys, 12, he's going into middle school here, and 10 and 7. And so, birth order is so true.
Gotcha.
He's setting the rules. The other 2 disobey all the rules. And
they actually didn't know you had rules.
No, they're Kai's rules, and we don't like them.
Yeah.
So they don't know their parents' rules that Kai just happens to obey regularly.
Fair enough.
So, and everyone listening, this is a conversation that is for everyone. How do you navigate the world of media out there and everything that is out there and what's good, bad, yum, yuck, it's out there. And now we all have kids. Joanna, you have kids too. So how old are your kiddos?
Yeah, one almost 9 and one just turned 4.
So clearly this isn't a problem for your 4-year-old, right?
We just took all screens away from her indefinitely.
Definitely.
So yes, it is.
Oh, okay. So good. We're coming up with a strategy for the Wishart house.
Yeah.
Today.
And I mean, honestly, even before Kevin and I had kids, as a couple, we had to determine some of those boundaries. As a single, independently had to determine kind of what some of those boundaries were. And I think it's really helpful. Now,
this is not the all media is evil. This is not, we're not scorching movies here. We're also not going to tell people hey, these are the movies you can see. These are the ones you can't. This is the songs you should listen to. These are the ones that you shouldn't. Yeah. We're not doing that today.
I'm glad, because I still regret smashing my CD collection of all the music I actually liked when I started following Jesus as an adult. And,
the 90s church.
If I could have my Smashing Pumpkins double album back, I would just kill right now for that.
Yep. We've all been there. We've all been there.
Good.
So let's start off. Let's talk about what's your favorite kind of media? What when it comes to is it movies? Is it TV shows? Is it YouTube videos? What do you guys find yourselves going to in your family?
Comfort shows.
Okay.
That's it's funny. I was trying to think through what is my favorite type of media, and I think it is just comfort shows. So right now I'm in Friends, but it's New Girl, love Seinfeld.
Yeah, you cooked through Seinfeld 3 times.
Yeah, Kevin had to cut me off.
What does comfort mean? No drama?
I know what's going to happen. Okay. I'm okay with a little bit of drama if I know what's going to happen.
Okay.
So I feel the older I get, I sometimes feel so lame. I don't really want to be surprised. And I've talked about before, I get media sensitive about some of that stuff. But then podcasts, books, have really been trying to even Audible more.
Love Audible.
So.
Mm-hmm. I like comfort shows too. And to be honest, I don't like shows that make me feel things. Yeah. If I'm being totally honest with you, and this makes me seem really superficial, but I hate when people would always recommend, what's that show with the family that it goes through the years?
Parenthood.
What is it? Parenthood. Is that it?
Oh, yeah. And
no, it's
This Is Us.
This Is Us. That's
it.
Yeah.
Everyone was you got to watch this show. And I was like, why? And they were like, I bawled last night. I'm like, no.
You're that doesn't sound fun.
That sounds awful.
Yeah.
How about you, Kev?
For me, man, it's all sports. I can go dive deep into sports. So YouTube is so good for me. It tells me what sports I love that I've never heard of before.
There you go.
So if I'm being totally honest, there's a couple of things YouTube shows I really watch a lot. There's a crazy random British comedy that I've enjoyed. It's called Taskmaster. They take 5 comedians and make them do absurd tasks with no point and then judge them whose line is the name kind of thing. And I watch that religiously. And it's season 17, so it's a deep dive.
Have you ever heard someone in your family or friends that, media started to impact them, maybe positively or negatively? And this, I want to open this conversation up because I do think that media has more influence on us and our development, our relationship with God, our relationship with others, our personality. I think it is molded by the media we consume. So have you ever had someone that was impacted in that way?
100%. It's easy to say somebody. Like how I get impacted by media is one of the things I love doing is watching comedy, and comedy is like a relief from normal life. And you can turn it on, you find a lot of humor in it, and it's so quickly over the line on things that I don't want to fill my mind with. Yeah. And then all I can see is how I would tell that perverse joke and get my wife to laugh until I tell her, and she's like, by the way, that's out of bounds. Like, oh, that's right. And so it just becomes a normal part of what comes out because of what I allow in.
That's really accurate. My gosh. I have a buddy of mine that his sense of humor is rated R. Like his sense of humor is absolutely rated R. But it is because of the comedy that he listens to, and you know the movies and the shows that he listens to. And what it does is it lowers the filter that he thinks that's every adult will want to joke on this same level. And it's like you forget that what you heard in the roast of Tom Brady is not
that's not how we talk to each other. We don't all think that's funny.
We don't say those things.
Yeah. And it's like, it's so convincing because I'm doing this by myself. I'm watching this thing by myself. And so I've tried this my whole life. Like I'm watching something thinking that's reality. And then you get into a relationship with somebody and they don't share the same perspective, but that's totally missed and gone. And so our kids do the same thing where they're watching something, doing something, thinking this is how I do this. Yeah. The moment it turns off, you're like, you're the worst version of who you are because you've now convinced yourself.
I think it's interesting because I think I've seen that in different parts of my life. And where I found the commonality is if it's changed, whether it's my sense of reality or then what I'm looking for that's not possible. And so like you can think about things like you think about rom-coms, right? Well, then that warps your sense of like, is this how dating should be? Is this what I should be looking for in a partner? Or then you start to feel let down. Why isn't my partner as romantic as fill in the blank? So that's not helpful, right? Yeah. But then you also see it in ways, I love a good home improvement show as much as the next person, right? But then you start thinking, why doesn't my home look like that?
Yeah,
like, how do we tear out this wall? Or, hey, we have superhuman powers now that we know how to reno our bathroom, and we don't. And so I think just when you watch something so much that then you start taking on a different sense of identity or like that yearning for something that's like not, that totally was fabricated that you just can't.
Totally. What I love that you hit there is like I instantly went to like the negative things that I allow in. You went into the things that are positive but negative for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's really smart is because there is someone else can watch that, you know, HGTV show and be like, oh, that's cool. But for you, you're like, then you go to your living room and go, oh, and you see the gratitude go down and you're like, I probably can't watch these all the time.
It's like, I don't have that trendy couch. It's like, yeah, because your 3-year-old just spilled her juice on it.
Yeah. Different season. Different season.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Here, the overwhelming part to me though is as a guy in the world, as a parent trying to guide our children, I've never felt more behind than with technology and media. That I have to also lead this thing, but I also don't understand it as much as I want to. I have to lead this thing, but I also don't understand it as much as I want to. And so I have to enter into this world. I feel shame and like, I don't know if I can do this. And so sometimes because it's so overwhelmed, we don't do anything. And that leads us to the same place where I'm now drifting into an accidental strategy. I've done a bunch of this as like I'll read tech blogs, different things every now and then, and I'll do experiments with my phone because the rule I have to create is around, I'm not living out the value I want. The value I want is I don't want to live my life through this device, but I also can't put it down. So what do I do?
So let's do this. So we have what we've called the 4 Ds of coming up with a strategy. Now, I want to be clear. This is a strategy for everyone. Strategy for us as individuals, as adults. That's right. You know, we as adults, just because you pass the age of 18 doesn't mean you shouldn't have a strategy for the media you consume. And learn from me. If you're in your 20s, learn from me because I had no strategy. It did not lead me well. Yeah. Like it just didn't. I'm just telling you guys, I became desensitized to things that I just shouldn't. Like I would tell random people at church then, like, oh, I just saw this movie, and they'd be like, Wait, what movie?
Excuse me, Pastor Chad.
Yeah, exactly. And be like, oh, is that's not good? And it's like, so you do need to self-strategize for yourself. And then, especially when you start to have kids that are learning from you. So let's start with the first one. The first D is defined. Define the values. So what are the values? So what is the importance of defining values as a strategy for both self and family?
Yeah, like I can't tell you what your values. I can tell you what my values are. You have a different set of values, and there's been different values we've embraced as a young man, trying to figure out how to stay pure with my eyes. Just like food, everything I intake turns into me, and so if every thought I think is the thought that's reproducing and what I believe about the world, like I got to be careful what comes in. And so that was a value of I want to guard early on what I take in. Did it succeed at that? No. Not 100%, but if you don't have a value of this is important what I take in, it all forms me, then what are you going to do? But now I'm trying to be careful as a dad with 3 boys that are watching what I take in. I think I can filter content better than they can. I think it's still true. And yet, if I choose to do that quietly, secretly on the side, what they're observing me do quietly with my phone in the corner is forming what they think is appropriate behavior with the phone. So sometimes I have to say no to stuff because I want to be a model now. Back when I was 20, I didn't think about people being models with me. Like I'm thinking now about people are watching me. So I want to read my Bible, not mediated. I want to do things that help them see the things they want to reproduce and not just me doing myself, right?
Yeah.
So
those are values that we.
That's really good.
But you only do them because you start realizing like they're tapping me on the shoulder to get my attention and I'm reading my Bible. I'm frustrated because they're interrupting me, but they have no idea if that's different than Instagram. Yeah. It's just, they're watching me be on my phone. So.
Yeah, that's so good. I think for Kevin and I, we have tried to make things consistent with our family values. So we also don't feel like we have to keep track of a bunch of things also. And so for us, and actually we have a really great article on our website that actually talks through how could you even start thinking through your own family values, media excluded. But for us, present and honor. Those are 2 really important words for us. And so present, right, to what you just said, how does it affect how we're present with one another? So that could be a part of that value where we can totally watch Amazing Race together because it's fun, it's engaging, it's entertaining, it's causing conversation to happen. Or we could just all be doing that in our own silo, that we wouldn't be present doing that together. The other just big thing is honoring. And so even with Finn and YouTube, like there are a couple of YouTubers that he'll watch that by and large, like we're good. Like I know what to expect from those folks. I know what he's probably consuming. Every once in a while, it'll be like, ooh, I didn't love how he said that or how that was portrayed. And so then it's like, hey, Finn, what do you think? And like, he's awesome. And he will engage in that conversation because we've just been doing that.
That's great.
And so there have been times where he's like, yeah, you know what? I don't think I should watch that anymore. And I love when he comes to those conclusions himself. And it's not a rule. It's because it's a value that it's like, hey, Wishards, fill in the blank. You know, we show honor to one another. That's not honoring.
I think what you're saying too is really powerful. I hadn't thought about this, how this might apply to us, but what you're saying is powerful because your value transcends technology. It's a value you have everywhere. We want to honor each other everywhere. Technology has to be submissive to the overall value.
Yeah, absolutely.
So these are not values based on technology and media in our home. We have a value early on in our marriage. We heard a family say, we value poise. And when you have boys that act like bobcats everywhere, you begin to value poise when you go to your first funeral. And you're like, will they hold it together or should I get one of those monkey leashes, right? And
maybe both.
That's the strategy, right? Yeah. So we've talked to our boys about poise pretty often. That's an overall value. And poise is defined as a keen sense of the appropriate. And so you got to recognize I have to lock into when's it appropriate. They're feeling something. I don't need to celebrate and yell at them. And so they're trying to get this feeling, but like the technology has to fit under that gap.
Yes. Yeah.
So grandparents are at the house. They're from out of town. They're here. And they're like, we have screen time today. We're like, okay. So poise would tell us valuing time with them playing a card game would be better. They're negotiating also like, no, because you said the rule was we get 30 minutes. Like, okay, But our value transcends technology. So you are right and you're also wrong. And
that's great.
That's poise. Like, so those values are so much higher. And if you don't start with the values, you don't know what rules to hang off them.
And, and I'm telling you, like my son, Parker, the question he asks 50,000 times a day is why?
Yeah.
Why? Why? Values is why. Don't come up with a strategy without values because then you have no why. You have because I said so. And it's like, oh, okay, what he just learned is as soon as you no longer say so, he's fine to do whatever.
Yeah. Or even worse, if you actually answered your why, it might be because I'm afraid as a parent. Because I haven't healed those things that are keeping me from thinking this through. And that's a gift from God to go into those recesses of why I'm afraid.
Yes, and it's instead of saying no to something, you're saying yes to something. Yeah. So instead of saying no to the media, you're saying yes to poise. Instead of saying no to the music in the car, you're not saying no to the music car, you're saying yes to the conversation in the car.
Yeah, we want to honor. These people. We don't even know these people, but they're not speaking in an honoring way. Yeah.
And rules at ages and stages are applicable and good. And so another one we have is like the switch doesn't leave the house. So we don't take the switch to the car, right? And I know that there are times that Finn's like, you're so mean. Like, why can't I have the switch? And so it's like, dude, because we want to be together. I don't even care if you talk to me the whole time. And sometimes personally, I think it's good for you to be bored. And so I know we don't agree, but I'm the parent and going to step in and apply the rule that then we keep talking about and how it corresponds back to our values.
And what I love about what you just said there is that's what you guys have determined. The switch doesn't leave the house. But for us and my family, like my son, if he goes to a sleepover, he will take the switch and I know what games they're playing and stuff like that. So my point is it's up to your family and your person to define the value. And that's our first one is define the value. And good.
And add scripture, right? You go into scripture, like what are the values that scripture has to say about media? And if you haven't looked back at that, you may be making something that's antithetical to what God's already spoken. And so be careful because he has a guide of what we should let in and then making sure our values align with those things. But,
because God should have a say in the values of your family.
100%.
Absolutely. So only after you've defined the values should you determine the boundaries. So like first the values. And now what are the boundaries around the values? So like first we know we have this thing that we want to protect. Now let's put the fences and the gates and everything else in the family. So how do you start to create boundaries for family and for self?
Yeah.
Man, I was thinking about boundaries. Our backyard neighbors have 2 pit bulls.
Ooh.
Dude, it's a thing. Like a ball goes over, you just say peace and let it go if the dogs are out. But we value our kids playing together and playing in that space. And so we incentivize them to go out and play there. And every now and then it hits me that they are roughly 2 feet away from death at times, you know, but that boundary is so strong and there's really clear boundaries. And then we have other neighbors that there's no fence on. And because there's not a danger as clear on the other side. So we talk about boundaries. There's different types of boundaries. There could be this strict fence that's very, very dangerous. Like we have filters on mature content because that is a strict one. That's not one we want to say, I hope you make a right decision on.
Right.
Then there's other ones based on time, softer boundaries of like, hey, today may be appropriate because you're sick to watch 14 episodes of something.
Yeah.
And then when you're still feeling sick, here's the switch, you know? And like, there is an appropriateness to some of that there's other days though, where, hey, 30 minutes is right here because we're choosing hard. We're going to go play together. We're not going to just mediate ourselves away from the relationship.
Wow. So, that's great.
But boundaries are different. And so then choosing, is it a hard boundary? Is this something very, very dangerous? Or is this something that, hey, I might need to get comfortable with giving them some agency and freedom?
Yeah, I think for us, we've just been talking about this a lot lately. And so I think it's also good to see what other people have to say about it. And so there's a book, it's called Habits of the Household. He actually covers a bunch of different habits. And so it's interesting because it's not a difficult read, but it's a difficult read because it's just so challenging to like, to just like think through what does this mean for us? And so I know the way I'm wired, I have to be real careful to then just not take that book and be like, oh my goodness, this is how we have to operate now, right? That won't be helpful. That's not actually me filtering media to what's helpful to me. But he does have a whole chapter about screen time then also paired with play and family and bedtime and just like kind of all of the places that I've found screens or media kind of leaks into our day to day, that he's just had some real helpful things to say about it. And so I think also if you don't know where to start or this is a totally foreign concept to you, I think also trying to figure out what other people have said about it and what has worked for others.
Well said.
And that's the whole reason for this episode of the podcast is because there's some people out there that have come from, they may be first-generation Christians. They may be first-generation Christian parents. And so maybe they consumed everything as kids. And now they're like, I don't know even where to begin putting boundaries.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that because you also hit on the fact that I need to filter what I see as if it agrees with me. And so I have this filter for me personally. I connect to a lot of people through sports, knowing what's going on in the sports community, knowing what's happening in basketball. I connect to Andrew and Joe through basketball all the time. So what my boundary is though, is I also want to have good relationships. And so I don't live watch sports much. I'll do some. I'll do soccer games. I'll do U.S. national team games. I'll do things that are really important to me, wear my jersey, go crazy, do all the things. But I can't watch every night a live sports show. So my boundary is I don't have the subscription, but I check the game scores every night. And so I'm looking at what's happening, texting them, oh, it's looking like this is happening. And then it like kicks off this thing. So boundaries, my filter is not the same as other people's filters that want the live experience.
Yeah.
But it's what I can do right now in this season with so many relationships.
And what we've done is we only have one sport. So ours is baseball, and
It's the worst sport. There's so much baseball, man.
You are wrong.
Soccer happens once on a weekend.
Baseball is like, for us, like we watch it as a family, and it's a family event until my team inevitably starts to really tank, and then we don't watch it
July.
anymore.
Then you get to switch over to movies. Yeah.
So determining the boundaries, I think you start with the values and what you're going to protect. And I love the illustration that you gave, Kev, is we're like, there's not going to be a list here that we give on the show notes of like, here's the boundaries. No, you're going to have to first determine the values as set out by Jesus.
Yeah.
Then you set the boundaries as some fences are to protect, and those are wrought iron, barbed wire fences. And it's like, no. And we have some of those in our home too, where it's like, we have monitor my daughter's cell phone and stuff like that. But then there are some boundaries where it's like, this is a different kind of boundary, a time boundary. And I love what you said about that. And it's all about, and sometimes boundaries change depending on the age.
Yep.
And it's like what was once a boundary can suddenly be a negotiable thing as the child gets older and they.
Yeah, and if you're talking to a child, they're remarkably self-aware at times. That if you tell them, here's what I'm afraid is going to happen, then you can trust your child, Finn, Olivia, somebody to talk back to you and just say, hey, Dad, I get what you're saying. I can prove it and show responsibility in this area. And then the soft boundary gets to change a little bit.
Totally.
That's good.
And that's like such a gift to be able to bring them along instead of them always being the antithesis to the rule, the boundary.
Yeah, because you're teaching them for launch.
Yeah.
Like it's just, we have to keep challenging our thinking, I think, with parenting sometimes. I know even for me, it's like I am raising Finn to go be a human outside of my home. I am raising June to be a human outside of my home, right? it is my responsibility to help them learn how to discern. Like I very much grew up in a culture where it was like, if it wasn't deemed Christian, you shouldn't be watching it or you shouldn't be listening to it. And so there is a whole part of my like adolescent teen years, right, that I either felt like I needed to hide it and not talk to anyone about it or share about it or be afraid that my mom found out that I watched this movie, which sorry, Mom, or like listening to it. Like I had a whole CD case. I know we don't do that anymore, but I had a whole CD case that like I would have been mortified if my youth pastor found it. But like with my own kids, like I want them to be able to talk about it.
Yeah.
Hey, Mom, what does the line in that song mean? Yeah. I mean, that's not a conversation I'm excited to have, but I feel like for Kev and I, we have really been trying and trying to move towards how do we help them discern so they know how to do that one day.
And I think you guys just hit on our next one, which is discuss the strategy. That's what you guys are talking about is.
Yeah.
So you start with define the values, determine the boundaries, and then discuss the strategy. You can't just lay out the strategy. Now you can for a 4-year-old.
Right. Absolutely.
But
you can for an 8-year-old.
But you do at some point need to include them in the strategy that and the values you're protecting, the boundaries you're setting, and the why. And so we don't have to belabor this one, but it is this idea of why is it important to bring, especially your kids, but maybe if you're an adult and this is just yours, bring other people, your accountability people into the conversation.
So as an adult, it's really important for me to have people in on this. Because if I don't have somebody else that knows my strategy, can test my strategy, I have not tapped into the gift of an abundance of counselors. There is wisdom. If I get myself into trouble alone, I'm likely not gonna get myself out of trouble alone. And so right now there's a couple of things I'm doing to try to manage my energy. And one of them is like, I gotta be careful what I intake because it's not creating energy to output that. And so there's a guy in my group named Alec. Alec is aware of what I'm doing. My requirement for him is I have to send him an email each week telling him what I did. And I have done so much more knowing the shame emails coming that I signed up for and I recruited. But if I got myself to like mismanage my energy because I'm just streaming YouTube at night and I'm not doing anything to get ready for the next day or doing something in the habit in the morning that's empowering my energy, I got to tell somebody. As soon as I tell somebody, it's like handcuffs are off. Yeah. Now I'm excited to go experiment.
Wow.
So yeah, it's kids, but it's also like, man, as an adult, like if you got there by yourself, you're not gonna get out of it by yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if a strategy is known by only you can change it too easily.
Or my Wednesday self is very different than my Sunday self.
Yeah.
And Wednesday was a tough day at school, right? And I had to hear all this negative stuff. And all of a sudden I want to do something positive for me that looks like withdrawing. But that's not what my Sunday self told me to do.
Yeah. I think it is also interesting just between spouses too, I know what Kevin and I have stepped into, and more so, like just even on my part, is then you want to hold your spouse accountable to what you think it should be. That's also not helpful, right? And so I think also when you're talking about that strategy for him and I, we've had to talk about what is good for him and I that we both feel like we can be on board with, because it's just the way that I'm wired and just some of the intensity or all or nothing or that I can bring to the table. He'll say, Joanna, but that's not realistic.
Wow.
Or I don't actually want you to hold me accountable in that way. Like, I think that this thing is fine, or the amount of sports I'm watching is fine, or whatever the reverse is for me. So I think just even discussing, you talked about, discussing the strategy. You've got to make sure whoever's in the fight with you that you're aligned. It's just going to be it's going to be a lot harder to keep the boundary if you're operating out of two different strategies.
That's really good.
So the last thing is debrief often. So define the values, determine the boundaries, discuss the strategy, and then debrief often. So this is probably one that we forget the most.
Yeah.
We set things. We do you remember those commercials? Ron Popeil said it and forget it.
Yeah.
We set out a strategy. We set it and forget it. But things change.
Yeah.
People change. Media changes. What was once yum became yuck. The child has grown older and they need more responsibility. They need more strategy, whatever it might be. So why is it important to debrief often?
Yeah, because we just naturally slide into the default. Like, even though we can talk so confidently about the things we've talked about and give our greatest hits here, like I'm sitting at, my parents live out of town. They live in Michigan still. I'm in Pennsylvania. It is valuable, the amount of time we have with them. I have a great family. My parents bought a bigger house in retirement to host my family and my sister's family coming and staying with them. They're incredibly generous people. They have a huge table for 2 people. I found myself sitting on my phone in the other room doing exactly what I do every night at home with them. And I'm sitting there thinking, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Like, if I don't debrief that, I'll never get to what's causing me not to want to be in relationship with the people I dearly love then.
Yeah.
And so sometimes with ourselves, just like, why am I doing this? What is here? And that question itself unlocks a whole lot of curiosity and like being inquisitive about how I got here. So you can't go back and change the values or habits until you know why is the outcome something I don't want.
What I love about what you said is debrief doesn't always mean a family meeting for an hour. Right there, you were debriefing on the spot. And sometimes Steph and I will debrief on the spot, and she'll tell me, hey, I noticed this. And she has that permission. And, you know, there's no one better than my wife to be able to say exactly what cuts at the point, you know, and we can debrief pretty often. Now, sometimes I debrief after the debrief, after she gives me the comment, I'm like, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
And then the next day I'm like, okay, I'm ready to debrief. Yeah, you're right. I did watch 4 hours of YouTube last night and that was not good. So.
Yeah, I think it's also, it's funny. I would say we are the worst at this one as the day goes on. Meaning, like, I would also say it's easy to then set the table for all of this and you wake up like kind of bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and you're like, today's the day. Like, we've got it, right? And then you have a tough day, or I don't know if anyone else can relate to the ships passing in the night where it's like, hey, I'm getting the kids here. You're going to that thing. I'm doing this thing. Again, none of those are inherently bad, right? But I think the space then between the debrief, again, you don't accidentally slide into where you hope you are. Yeah. And so I know for our house, like the debrief or the checking in or the then holding to the plan you're setting in place, that's where life can happen. That's where you get tired. That's where you can run fast and not pause. And so, yeah, I don't know. I feel like this one in particular, this is our kind of Achilles heel, that it's like, how do we just make sure we keep moving towards the plan?
Yeah.
And I think, so then also great time right now in summer to debrief. Are we getting what we want out of our summer?
Yes, totally.
Is the spaces we've curated for us and for our kids, is it so overwhelmingly fun that they don't want to go to the default?
Yeah.
And that's part of our strategy. It's like, let's overwhelm them with options. And create a space that helps them choose the right thing. And they don't. They still choose easy. Right. And that's okay, you know, and then so you're at a moment every time the transition happens, just saying, okay, we're getting what we want. Are we getting what we hope for? Or is this a new season where we need to give a little more freedom of choice? Yeah. And it's a 5 minute, right? We're not talking about a reset the whole thing. It's just being really using radical candor to say, what are we seeing?
Yeah. The other thing, just too, I think you touched on this, you've got to set the stage. And so I think a lot of the conversation is easy to happen in conversation. And then you have a bunch of things you want to accomplish, ways you want to get it done. But even like in kind of the best summer ever or like that fun, I think sometimes we can paralyze ourselves that it's like, man, I don't know what then that looks like. Right. Yeah. And so one of the other things they talk about in habits of the household is intentionally setting the stage for that. And so this is might sound really dumb to some folks, but it's like, we have markers and crayons and their sketchbooks reachable. Yeah. That's the first thing they can reach on the shelf. So like, and again, for my kids' age and stage, that is age and stage appropriate. That it's like, hey, how do I set the stage for actually the screens to be farther away physically and to say, hey, June, the box of Magnetiles is out. Like, this is your morning jam. And so I think, that part is important too, that setting the stage doesn't have to be complicated, or that your family is in the yard every single day for 4 hours, just keeping them away from screens. But how do you really have some of those practical cornerstones around how you just set up the environment then to help your plan win?
Well said. One of the books that was really helpful early on was TechWise Family. Andy Crouch, his value statements come out as 10 commitments. And so one of his commitments, you just remind me of, he said, we want to be contributors and creators more than we're consumers. And that's a value. So then you set up the space. I joke with Rachel every summer. She's like, we're going to plant the garden. And in my head, I'm like, that's going to be like a $17 tomato. With the amount of like, we actually get out, you put the soil, you do the plant, you do all the work.
I don't know. Tomatoes cost about $17 now.
Yeah. But my head is so cynical because I'm thinking this is about money. This is about produce. And it's not, because our middle son loves to see it grow. He's the one that struggles the most as an introvert with like needing to get out of our chaos into something that's easy. And so in my head, I don't know if I can put a dollar amount on watching him care for plants. And so if they never produce something, if that matches the value, we'll invest all kinds of time into that.
That's good.
But that space, if we chose not to do that, that's one more hard conversation we have to have all the time about getting him something that he wants to go do. Yeah.
And I'd say there's going to be some people that are out there listening right now, and you're saying it's late in the game. It's the seventh inning, it's the eighth inning, and my kid's already 15, 16. How do I even begin to come up with a plan, a value system, strategy? And I would point you back to an episode of the podcast that we did with Dr. Gary Chapman. And he said, when you're putting things in for teenagers, when you're putting rules or boundaries in for teenagers, sometimes you have to begin with an apology. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you just kind of go to them and say, like, hey, I haven't done this the right way. I've made a mistake. I've made a mistake in not helping you and being the parent that you deserve and putting these boundaries and these values in there. And please forgive me. And like, now you're going to join me in shaping this. And I think sometimes
I love that.
Good. So if you're listening and you're like, this doesn't apply to me, my kid's too old, I disagree. I just disagree. I do think it can and should be done. It will be harder. So you have more to make up, but that's okay. As long as Jesus Christ is the Lord of all, there's still time, and you can change.
What do you say to adults that feels too late? I've got these habits. I can't overcome these things.
For me, that especially, because now you're changing self, and Jesus is a master of changing self. Mm-hmm. But it just takes the same level of discipline, the same level of things are going to have to change. But I think you have to start with the value. And I think with all of this is, don't start with the rules, because you will quit rules.
Yeah, that's
but
the
you
easy
won't
place.
quit values.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So and maybe you've never started with values before. Maybe you've never ever started. You've always said, I'm not going to do this. And then you go back to it because you quit rules. But don't quit on yourself, and don't quit on the values that Jesus is giving you for yourself and your family.
Yeah, and maybe the rules aren't really evident, or the habits that you need to form aren't evident, and you're going to have to experiment with a bunch of stuff to get there.
Yeah.
And
totally,
you can do anything for a couple of weeks.
Yep.
And the difference between what your family will look like a year from now and today is in this right here, and what you do with this, and how you implement it.
That's good.
Well, thank you so much for tuning into the Live Change podcast. Remember, media matters, and you're not going to fall accidentally backwards into a healthy strategy. So sit down, come up with your strategy, come up with your values, and implement that into your family today. If you like this episode of the podcast, make sure you like, share, subscribe, and comment. And as always, now that your life changed by Christ, go live that change out.